Yeah, good morning everybody. It's a huge pleasure and honor to welcome you here in Gstaad. Some familiar faces and also some new faces.
And we are proud on everybody who has been in the workout this morning. I have been there. It was intense, wasn't it? The day will be intense, and I think, Marc, you will give us now an overview of the past, the present, and the future.
Exactly, but very briefly, just what we did so far this year and why we're here now in Gstaad. As you know, we have a few smaller events, and Gstaad is and will always be the nucleus. But earlier this year, literally last month, we had a small gathering in Copenhagen during ARDD, where we brought together some investors. And in June, together with XPRIZE in New York, we had a similar format where we co-hosted an event for investors. And then now for the fourth time in Davos, we had during the World Economic Forum a small lunch where we also bring together investors interested in longevity. But now about the history and why we're here in Gstaad. We have literally started 5 years ago when Tobias and myself were looking into longevity with a very simple ambition and vision, because we saw many exciting things happening in longevity, but unfortunately hardly any investors investing money into the space besides the crazy Silicon Valley billionaires. And we thought that's a little bit unfortunate, because we need more capital. We need to educate investors with capital to understand, on the one side, the huge impact on humans, but also the business opportunity of this industry. And with this simple idea, we launched our company, Longevity Investors. And as you can maybe remember, there was something like COVID. So during the first 2 years, unfortunately, we had to organize the event virtually. And then luckily we met with you as our host here now and decided to do our first physical event here in Gstaad. And since then, it evolved into something I would call a little bit a different format in the industry, where it's really about learning, exchanging, educating, and then ideally also investing into the space. And as you see, we're still on a journey, but for us, it's really about bringing more capital, more knowledge into the longevity industry. And as maybe just a short glimpse, I mean, you will see everything in the coming days. Our idea is really that it's a small, intimate format that you can literally talk to everybody. It's also not about speakers, investors, or startups. It's really about the community. So if you have questions and if you want to learn, also all our speakers are on site during the whole time. So it's really about connecting, learning, and getting deeper into the topic. And additionally, naturally, I also want to thank to all our partners and speakers, because literally we're in the background, the team is doing the hard work, but ultimately it's really about you getting the whole thing into what was originally our vision and our ambition. And also just that you know, everybody from the team is also accessible, so if you have any questions, just reach out to us. All of the operational team is also on site, so you at least know, we know the team is a little bit more in the background, so you know the ones who really do the work in the background. And I think that was it already from my side, so thanks again for being with us, and I wish you a great time, and hopefully together we can bring more capital into the longevity industry. And now to you, Tobias, a little bit as backflash of the milestones.
So what happened in the last year as analytics? We definitely moved towards clinical usage now, and I think in the next 2 days you will hear from our experts what has been done and what can be expected. Rapamycin, now this is interesting. So when we prepared that presentation, meta-analysis, new studies confirmed the power of rapamycin. Good, no? Just yesterday over the aperitif, I heard from a fellow participant here that actually there is a new study coming out telling us that muscle growth might actually not work with rapamycin that well. So this is a good example of where we stand here. Longevity is a young field, and you being at this conference, you are really in the midst of a development. When you compare it to conferences which speak about, I don't know, the usage of aspirin. Yeah, great. Okay, we all knew about 5,000 studies. Here it's new. One study might contradict the last one. So it's still a field where you have to position yourself and be careful in what you invest, basically. I have to press once more, apparently. NAD precursors. I'm a big fan, actually. So I consume NMN every morning, 250 milligrams. I personally would say I have, a great benefit of that, energy-wise and so on. However, when we look at the last studies and trials, we get some mixed feedback. So also here we have to look carefully in and what do we use it for, yeah? AI, big topic. I mean, there is now conferences only on AI and longevity. I think we are at the beginning of it, but we see now that, even pharma gets positioned itself. I expect that we will see a lot of AI-driven discoveries in that space, and speed will go up. Again, once more, we have to get familiar with that and understand what it is all about. When we talk further about aging clocks, I mean, that's a topic, of course, you all know about. However, there were some new ones, system age, ensemble age, and they get more accurate. I mean, at our clinic, Ayun, we stopped using one aging clock. We use 8 and take an average of that. And I can tell you the results span of about 10 years. They're all accurate in what they measure, but they just don't measure the same thing. When we talk about retrobioscience, that's the startup financed by Sam Altman. They aim to rejuvenate the brain. So they go now to the clinical phase. First patient in Australia. Might be big, definitely financed very well. Then we have here more billionaire capital. I mean, Marc mentioned it from the beginning on. Some of the crazy people, like billionaires, went into that. We see more money moving in. But in Europe, we don't see much money. I mean, when I look at the startups we have invested in, which we continue building, where we also facilitate further investments, it's not easy in Europe. I mean, there are great companies around, but capital doesn't flow. In the United States, I think that's different. I think in China, it starts to be different too. But Euro clearly lags behind, and the potential is clearly here, but we need to do something. Longevity market, of course, it's big, yeah, projected to surpass 600 billion. Others say also 1 trillion. Anyway, we talk here about something with big potential. I personally always say this century you have 2 big topics: it's AI and longevity, and of course they intersect. But we are on something big here, you could say. Drug combo in mice. Nature Aging basically showed the rapamycin and trametinib extended the lifespan of mice a lot. Well, that probably has an impact for future research on humans as well. Health span, lifespan, we all agree that is the important thing. Now there are studies showing that people start to really care, not about living long, but about living long and healthy longevity. More and more appears. Then we have biology breakthroughs, new studies with the sharks. I have been there. The oldest sharks actually swim around in Greenland. Why do they get so old? So we try to learn about that. What can we copy from them? And then what I also like is HBOT. I mean, we all know about that since years, but it wins relevancy. So there have been studies showing that you really have a positive impact on longevity. And last but not least, it was Brian Johnson who talked about that. Now, you can think of him what you want, but the impact he has when he says it works, it's great. Once again, when we go to Ayun, our clinic in Zurich, HBOT is booked out. And this is really since Brian Johnson talked about it. So this guy has some influence. He spoke the last 2 years at our conference as well. So, yeah, as you see, there is a lot of things happening in this whole field. Yeah. Now, we are in Switzerland. The conference is here. Is this just because Marc and I live here? No, not really. I mean, we say that Switzerland is becoming a bit of a longevity capital here. And when you look at it, there is a lot of companies which have been founded here, which are operational here. Some of them are ours, but there's many others as well. And when we look at the turnover and investments there, we see that Europe has 17%, whereof Switzerland is 4%. And so Switzerland is clearly punching above its weight. And I think that's good. I mean, we have talent here. We want to attract companies. And as I said before, what we also need to attract now more is more capital. There is great minds, great companies around, but they need investors. Yeah. Marc, you want to quickly say about something here?
Yeah, that's just a reminder. I think most of you already know that besides the events we're organizing, we're also sending out the weekly newsletter combining AI and some human intelligence to literally pre-select the most relevant news for investors in longevity. So I think that's also something which is needed, so a great source to be kept in the loop about the most relevant things happening in the space.
Yeah, so look at that too. And now some of you who have been here last year might wonder, why am I here? Because last year I told you I go on Blue Cruise. I go travel around the world in search of longevity best practices with a boat. Now, just because of you, I came back. And tomorrow, I plan to give you a little bit of an update of where we are. The ship here, you can see, is in the north of Greenland. And tomorrow I will tell you whether we got stuck or not. So try to be early here. I think we will speak about that just at the opening. So no excuses. I can share some great photos and some interesting experiences and impressions and so on. And so with this, I think we are done. We wish you a great conference. Thanks a lot for being here. And we are handing over again.